Photos that will give 99% of you chills, part 10.
This is the picture taken inside of an Auschwitz gas chamber. These are scratching marks from the people inside
Trying to escape and get out of that nightmare.
This is super disturbing and sad. This is a picture of 3 friends on a roller coaster, but the kid in red all the way to the right actually broke his neck during this roller coaster.
This is just super unfortunate.
1 second he was having the time of his life, and then the next second he was in the worst pain of his life. This is the picture of an abandoned mental patient's room in a mental hospital. It's super creepy to think what goes on in these people's minds.
Just look at all the creepy things written on the wall.
This is giving me chills just looking at it. Finally, this is a girl named Sarah who was in the catacombs in Paris with her friend.
Sarah's friend said that she was acting very strange down there,
and she never seen her act like that before. She then took a picture of her, and this was the result.
It looks like Sarah was possessed,
and she also doesn't remember even being there.
These are the scariest foods to eat in the world, part 3.
Up first is fried rats.
These are super popular in Thailand.
People like the texture and the flavor of these.
They say they eat these rats
to control the rodent population, but eating rats is pretty creepy. Up next is a still beating cobra heart.
They say eating this helps you with your senses,
and the people who eat this say it's very delicious.
But after you eat this,
you can still hear the heart beating in your stomach for several minutes. Next is wasp crackers.
This is a cookie with wasps, and they say as you eat this,
the stingers of the wasps can still sting while you're eating it. Now that is super scary. Finally is fried grasshoppers.
People season these with salt, pepper, and chili,
and then they get fried. And as you bite into it, a lot of juice squirts out, and apparently it tastes like popcorn.
This is the disturbing words that Stephen Hawking said before he passed away.
Stephen Hawking is one of the most smartest human beings to ever live.
And what he said before his death will blow your mind.
He said that he believes that artificial intelligence will completely kill off the human race and make us extinct.
And if that doesn't happen, he said that the earth will be a sizzling ball of fire before the year 2600.
So I don't know what will be worse, being in a war with a bunch of robots or having our planet completely burned away.
These are scary pictures that you have to look at twice, part 4.
Up first is a picture of a girl just sitting in a park.
But if you look behind her, your stomach will drop.
Standing behind the girl looks like a man dressed as Slender Man, or it is the infamous Slender Man.
Luckily, the girl did not realize anybody was behind her
until she looked at the photo later that night. Next up is a teenage girl who was taking a selfie on her computer.
But standing right behind her
is a very creepy ghostly woman.
The girl noticed the creepy woman immediately,
but when she turned around, it was gone. Finally is a picture a man took one foggy morning
after he heard very demonic screaming coming from outside.
But the scariest part is, when he went outside, there was nothing there. He just took a photo of where the screaming was coming from,
and when he later saw the photo,
this is what he saw.
This is the disturbing truth behind the movie Up.
Carl is dead.
He died at the beginning of the movie, and everything that happens after
is his journey to heaven. Russell is Carl's guardian angel.
Russell needs one last badge,
a badge for assisting the elderly, in order to become a senior wilderness explorer.
But in reality,
this is the last act that would earn Russell his wings. Russell tells Carl he could help him cross the street, the yard, or the porch.
But he eventually helps Carl cross into the afterlife.
Carl's guardian angel is a kid
because he and his wife Ellie
were never able to have one. The house represents Carl's attachment to the physical world, while Paradise Falls is heaven.
The raising of the house
represents Carl's initial transition from the physical world to the spiritual world. And when Carl finally lands on Paradise Falls,
he has finished his transition
and he finally reunites with Ellie in heaven.
These are the most scariest phone numbers to call, part 3.
Up first is 1000-000-0000.
This is a very cursed number,
and it is said when you call it, a male voice starts screaming at you and threatening you,
and tells you to give the number to 15 other people.
If you don't agree with him, and you don't do what he asks,
you will die within a week.
The next number is 666.
If you call the number 666, you will contact the devil.
Countless people have tried this, and everyone has different experiences to tell.
Some say nothing happens when they called it.
Other people say they hear very creepy music, and also satanic noises.
If you were curious enough to call this number,
brace yourself, and be careful of the after effects of calling this number. anything can happen to you.
Creepy facts that will give 99% of you chills, part 6.
Many pets die around the world
Because their owner dies unexpectedly,
and nobody comes to check on them in time. This means that these pets die a very slow, lonely death. Before you die, your last words are, "I don't feel so good."
paramedics say people's final words before they die
Consist of either "I don't feel so good," "Wait, something's wrong."
wait, something is happening.
This is very chilling, and it shows that people are in complete panic when they are about to die. There are about 40 supervolcanoes around the world,
Capable of killing billions of people.
and we are about 40,000 years overdue for an eruption. In 2012, scientists found 1,400 new species.
Living in somebody's belly button.
This is super gross and creepy, and should remind you all to always wash your belly button.
This is the disturbing truth behind Blue's Clues.
Steve is actually a drug addict, and he's hallucinating throughout the whole show.
You can notice this by
How Steve sees inanimate objects as happy and friendly roommates,
every episode, Steve will jump into a painting on the wall.
and be in a different world for a brief period. But he is actually intoxicating himself on the couch, and he is watching the picture until he hallucinates.
That he's inside of it.
Also, the child's voice that you hear talking to Steve in some episodes
Might actually be his neglected child.
helplessly watching his dad feed his addiction.
This is the disturbing truth behind the Fairly Odd Parents.
The Fairly Odd Parents is about a kid who is playing pretend with his fish, who is Timmy Turner.
His grandparents died in a car crash when he was younger.
And since they were the only adults who ever understood him,
He finds comfort in imagining
that they are there to watch over him, since his parents obviously don't care and are never home, his babysitter Vicky slaps him around,
at any opportunity she can.
and Timmy is not brave enough to tell on her,
And this is why Timmy's parents think she's such a good babysitter.
because he never tells them the horrible things she does to him. The granted wishes are all in his imagination,
Hence why they never have any lasting consequences.
so every wish Timmy made was not real and it's all in his head. Mr. Crocker has made sexual advances on young Timmy Turner for years,
Hence the illusion that he is trying to steal Timmy's fairies.
which represent his innocence, joy, hope, and good wishes for the future.
This is the scary truth about Google.
Google knows everything about you.
When you set up an account on Google, you really tell them everything about you.
From your age to your name to your address. They also know every single website you visit and for how long you're on it.
Also, they keep a document of every single image that you look at.
And what images you save.
This is really terrifying, but that's not all.
Google also knows your location at all times and knows everywhere that you go.
I think it's crazy that Google knows everything about everybody.
And nobody seems to care. Google is honestly just a birth certificate away from becoming virtually you.
This is the scary truth about iPhones.
iPhones actually listen to everything that you say.
And it's pretty creepy.
This is why if you're ever talking about something with your friends, then suddenly whatever you were talking about,
Comes up on your timeline hours later.
well, that's because your iPhone is listening to you. Next, your iPhone tracks you everywhere you go.
This is how the iPhone knows.
How long it takes to get to places from where you are.
If you want proof,
Go to your settings and then hit privacy, then click location services at the top.
and it will most likely say on.
It's pretty creepy that they can hear and track everything we do, and I mean everything, because who doesn't have their phone on them nowadays?
Here's the most unsolved mysteries with the most chilling phone call, part 1. Trigger warning, all of these stories you're about to see are real and documented, and every single one of these are still unsolved to this day. For our first story tonight, there's this young girl named Antoinette. On April 6, 1986, her and her sister were up at 3 a.m. at the house. At just 9 years old, they heard a knock on the door. She said, "Who is it?" And this man said, "Uncle Joe, please let me in, it's cold out here." According to her sister's reports, as soon as Antoinette opened the door, 2 men grabbed her and put her in a brown van. Here's where everything gets super creepy. Her sister said that she kicked and screamed all the way to the van. 1 year later, the police received this phone call, and what you are about to hear literally gives me chills.
Police department. Hello. I'm Antoinette Caribito. Okay, whereabouts in Albuquerque? Hello? Antoinette, where are you?
These are the scariest foods to eat in the world, part 1.
Up first is tuna eyeballs.
These are very popular in Japan,
And apparently they're very good.
they're said to be very healthy also.
But I don't understand why people would like eating eyeballs. Up next is fried spider.
This is very popular in Cambodia.
And people like it because it's crunchy on the outside and gooey on the inside.
This is completely terrifying.
Especially if you're scared of spiders. Next up is barbecued bat.
This is very popular in Indonesia.
And they say it tastes pretty good. But if you don't like the taste of bat, you can just ask for extra garlic, pepper, and chili. Finally is monkey brain.
This is popular in China.
And not only is this a scary food, it's also very bad for your health.
From eating it, you can develop dementia,
Loss of vision, depression, and eventually death.
These are the scariest planets ever found, part 2.
Up first is WASP 12b. This strange planet is stretched out like that.
Because this planet's star is just constantly ripping it apart.
If you were to stand on this planet, you would instantly be sucked up to this planet's star, and you will be instantly evaporated. Next up is Gliese 1214b. This might be the scariest planet ever.
This planet is filled with water, but this water is not normal water.
If you were to step foot on water on this planet, your foot would immediately melt away.
Also, this planet has bone-crushing pressure.
And the temperatures reach thousands of degrees.
These are the most scariest kids to ever live, part 3.
This is Eric Smith. Eric Smith was a lonely child and often bullied at school
For his red hair, freckles, and weird glasses.
So he had a lot of rage building up in his body, which came out in a violent and explosive way when he turned 13.
When Smith was 13,
He lured Derek Robbie, who was 4 years old, into the woods, and then hit the young boy over the head with a rock and then strangled him. He then sodomized him with a tree branch to confirm that he was dead.
the body was found pretty quickly, as Robbie's mom reported him missing almost immediately.
Eric Smith then confessed to the murder and was charged with second-degree murder.
Spine-tingling photos taken just before tragedy, part 2.
This is William Sanders,
He was a teacher at the Columbine High School.
and in this photo, he is guiding more than 100 students out of the cafeteria.
During the Columbine High School massacre,
He was later shot twice in the chest and he did not survive.
but he also saved countless students.
This is Giles Leclerc and Marina Lebany.
They took a selfie at a concert they were at together, and seconds after this picture was taken,
4 gunmen stormed in and started shooting everywhere. Giles was killed in the attack, who was on the left, and Marina survived. This tall wind turbine caught fire.
trapping 2 engineers on top who were working on it.
This photo shows the 2 people hugging just before one jumped to their death
And the other one stayed at the top,
and burned to death. This woman was standing in a pond.
but she did not notice the big alligator right behind her.
The alligator then attacked her, and it damaged her leg so badly that she had to get it amputated.
Here is what would happen if the Yellowstone volcano erupted tomorrow. First off, as soon as it erupted, tens of millions of people within 1,000 miles of the eruption would instantly die. The eruption itself is not even the worst part though. If you were to breathe any of that ash that came out of the volcano, which is inevitable in a scenario like this, it would form a cement-like mixture in your lungs, causing you to suffocate to death. Oh, and for any buildings within a 1,000 mile radius, they would all immediately disintegrate. And the entire continental US would be covered in ash. Even parts of Europe would see some ash. This would basically send us all into another ice age. The entire world would experience a temperature drop, since the ash would block the sun. The global temperature would drop about 10 degrees for about a decade. This would all make it very difficult to raise crops and clean water. And Yellowstone erupts about every 725,000 years. And we are actually due for an eruption within the next 100,000 years.
This is the creepy story about the dirty room.
There was a girl named Beth, and her mom kept telling her to clean her room because she hadn't cleaned it in months,
Beth said she didn't want to.
and that she would do it tomorrow.
Her mom rolled her eyes and said okay.
That night, Beth was watching TV in bed and she fell asleep.
Beth woke up the next morning and realized her vision was black.
She couldn't see a thing and she began to scream.
Her mom then came running in the room.
And Beth told her that she just woke up and she cannot see a thing. Her mom then immediately took her to the hospital.
When the doctor looked at Beth's eyes,
He immediately said, "Beth, you got bit by a spider in both of your eyes and you will never be able to see again."
Beth immediately started to cry and couldn't believe she was going to be blind.
The doctor then looked at Beth's mom and said, "Does your daughter have a messy room?" Her mom said yes. Why? The doctor then said, "That's probably why she got bit by a spider in her eyes, because spiders love to populate messy rooms."
If you see these insects, beware, they are deadly. Number 1, this caterpillar looks like a dropped twig, but don't let that hair fool you into touching it. This hair is poisonous. It will penetrate your skin and sting you. And the symptoms after you touch this caterpillar are very lethal. The pain is said to be unimaginably bad. Number 2, if you see a fly like this, run and ask for help. It's called a tsetse fly, and they are very deadly. And this fly will bite any moving object that it sees. This fly infects blood with dangerous parasites, and it will gradually destroy the human body, leading to death. And finally, number 3, if you see this snail in the ocean, do not get near it. The Conidea snail could probably be one of the most deadly creatures alive. Under its shell lies a very poisonous tooth. The tooth has spines and is very poisonous. Just one drop of poison from this organism can kill 20 people, and there is no antidote to it.
This is the scary story about the movie theater. One night a girl was at the movie theater with her boyfriend when she noticed a man staring at her while she was waiting for her popcorn. She told her boyfriend, but he said he's probably just a creep. When the girl and the boyfriend sat down in their seats in the theater, she noticed the man sitting a couple seats down, just staring at her. She didn't tell her boyfriend because she didn't want to sound crazy. Halfway through the movie, the man got up and left the theater. The girl realized they got a sign of relief. A couple minutes went by when her boyfriend got up to use the bathroom. 15 minutes went by and he still wasn't back. She began to worry. She tried calling him multiple times, but he didn't answer once. She then left the theater to go look for him. When she got out to the hallway, she noticed a bunch of people screaming for help and standing around a body. She then started to scream and cry when she realized it was her boyfriend. He was brutally stabbed and lay dead on the ground. The girl then noticed a note next to his body, and when she read it, her heart skipped a beat. It said in all caps, "I wanted the girl." This is the craziest law in the whole world. We all know there is crazy laws in this world, but the United States definitely has the craziest. Title 14, Section 1211 of the Code of Federal Regulations, there was a law that was implemented on July 16th, 1969, that makes it illegal for any United States citizen to make any contact with extraterrestrial beings or their vehicles. This is very scary, and it makes you wonder, did aliens already come to Earth and make a deal with the United States? Or was this law just put in place for preparation when aliens come? I guess we will never know. Most scariest mugshots in the world, part 1. This one is just totally creepy. I don't know the reason why this girl got arrested, but I have a feeling it was for a good reason. Next is this one. Everything about this picture is just creepy. The eye color, the expression on his face, and the scars on his forehead. Just looking at this mugshot gives me chills. This one is just creepy and confusing. I don't know what those bumps are on his forehead, or why he looks like he's about to fall asleep, but nonetheless, this is super creepy, and I would not want to share a cell with him. Finally is this one. This mugshot might be the creepiest of them all. This man looks like every intention he has is bad. He doesn't look happy at all, and whatever he got arrested for, I would imagine it had to be bad. Just looking into his eyes will give you the chills and creep you out.
This is the story about the blind woman who could see ghosts. So this girl who was blind at birth lived with her father on a single ranch house. So because she was blind at birth, she had spatial awareness. Pretty much she knew how far apart everything was based on what she touched. One day in the living room, the blind woman was talking to a ghost named Ellie. So Ellie said to the blind woman her name and asked her why her face was so messed up. So the blind woman then asked, "Why is my face messed up? What's wrong with it?" And at that point, the father then heard the conversation and snagged the blind woman out of the room and said, "Who were you talking to?" The blind woman then replied, "I was speaking to Ellie," and then the father laughed. Over the course of the next few months, the blind woman started speaking to over 13 ghosts. And each time she would speak, her father would get very, very upset at her for speaking to ghosts. So one day, the blind woman fell in the kitchen and had to call the paramedics. And once the paramedics arrived there, she asked, "Can my dad come with me to the hospital?" The paramedic then replied, "Your dad's been dead for 6 years." Make sure to like for a part 2.
This right here is Jennifer Shewitt, an 8-year-old little girl who was abducted in the middle of the night, raped, had her throat slashed, and then was left for dead in a field. The man who did it was Dennis Bradford. So he woke her up in the middle of the night and told her he was a police officer. So then it made her kind of trust him a little bit. So then, yeah, he drove her to an empty parking lot, raped her, then went to a field where he drug her through the field and then slashed her throat and left her for dead. What he didn't know was that she actually was still alive, and she was found the next day by a group of kids and was rushed to the hospital, and now she's still alive today. As for him, he went to jail and committed suicide, and now he's dead, so kinda scurry.
This is the scary story about the bus driver.
There was a little girl named Mia who was taking the bus to school one day.
When the bus arrived at school, all the kids got off the bus, but when she was about to leave,
The bus driver put his arm in front of her.
he said, "Sit down, Mia, I have to talk to you." Mia was confused, but she didn't question the bus driver.
He then said, "Mia, I've been watching you,"
"I want to take you somewhere special." Mia said no thank you and was a little creeped out,
and tried to leave the bus.
but the bus driver then grabbed her and held her down and said,
"There's nothing you can do. You're mine now." Later that day, her parents got a call from the school.
saying Mia wasn't in school. Her parents began to panic and they called the cops.
Days went by and nobody knew where Mia was.
Until a police officer
Was driving down a closed road.
and saw a bus parked on the side of the road.
He then went inside the bus and saw a terrible sight.
In every seat was a different body part of a human, and in the last seat of the bus,
Was Mia's head with a terrifying look on her face.
this is the creepy story about the man in the park.
One day a kid named Mark was walking around in a park.
When a random man came up to him and started to say he can tell the future for a person, he told Mark that his family will soon be dead because of a mistake he would make. Mark told the man to go away and he didn't believe him one bit.
2 weeks went by and nothing happened.
Mark was now positive that the man was making this up.
That night his parents wanted to go to the movies.
Jeff didn't want to go, so his parents asked if he could drive them and pick them up, but he said no. His favorite baseball team was playing and he wanted to watch them. His parents then ended up driving.
Hours went by and his parents were still not home.
Mark tried to call them, but they did not answer.
He then heard his doorbell ring.
When he opened it, standing there was police officers. They said his parents had died. Their car brakes went out going down a hill, and they crashed right into a building. Mark was devastated. He wished he drove them instead of watching his stupid game. Mark then looked out into the road.
And standing there was the man from the park waving and grinning.
Unless you want your own Twitter hashtag, never do what he did. Trust me, you're gonna want to favorite this video so you never end up in this situation. You, my friend, have just caught death itself, the giant hornet. This hornet will come after you in the morning, and by the evening it will own your house, your family, and even your mortgage. Why am I so concerned by this person's well-being? Well, let's start with the fact that these have photographic memories, and you have caught it in a plastic see-through cup. You have the desire to meet your ancestors. Now, a sting from one of these is about as nasty as it looks, described as hot metal being poured into your body. And not only that, they can spray venom too. They don't just have to sting you. And before anyone thinks, no, this isn't a wasp that had a couple protein shakes, wanna know what these hornets do for fun? They raid beehives, and they completely Thanos everything inside of that nest. They can fly up to 25 miles per hour. He can only run 27. To pray for him in the comments.
Yo, what's up? These are scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 29. If you've ever been sleeping and had a nightmare that you were falling off of a building or out of the sky and you woke up kind of flinching a little bit, this is actually called a hypnic jerk, and basically what it is it's your body thinking you're about to die, so it wakes you up with this hypnic jerk. Pretty creepy. This may sound insane, but you are literally always 6 minutes away from dying, and every time you take a breath, that clock happens to restart. Lucky you. If you think about this pretty in depth, the ocean really is just a graveyard full of dead bodies and sunken ships, and every time you go visit the beach and take a dip in the water, well, you are swimming in a pool full of dead bodies. People unknowingly swallow around 8 spiders a year. Yeah, that's right, spiders are literally crawling inside of your mouth and down your esophagus, and you have no idea when or where.
Most scary sleep paralysis stories, part 2.
One night a man named Jimmy
Was sleeping when he suddenly woke up and couldn't move. He was super worried, but thought to himself this will pass in a couple minutes. But it didn't.
It felt like hours for Jimmy.
Then suddenly he felt a burning feeling on his chest. It was like hot metal being pushed down on his skin. He still couldn't move, and now he began to really worry.
He then felt a presence in the room.
But he couldn't see it, he just knew it was there. And then another burning feeling came on his chest. And this one was even worse. It felt like it was melting his skin. Then it finally stopped. But right when it stopped, he saw something that would haunt him for the rest of his life.
It was a demonic woman sitting on the edge of his bed.
After minutes went by,
She was gone.
and he could finally move again.
He then got out of bed and walked to the bathroom.
To see if he had any marks on his chest. When he took off his shirt, He had multiple bloody demonic symbols on his chest. To this day, Jimmy still has the scars on his chest from the symbols.
Imagine waking up at your own funeral. Elsie Dunbar actually had that realization. Her sister was late to her funeral, so she came and she wanted to see her sister one last time. But when she looked inside of the casket, she was still alive. She had so much life in her that she actually went on to live another 30 years. Just imagine.
Unbelievable things Kamala Harris has done because the media will never tell you. Part 2. A transgender prisoner desperately needed gender reassignment surgery, but Kamala argued the prisoner didn't need it because Kamala was forced to by her job. But in private, she met with California's prison system and successfully convinced them to pay for trans surgery.
This is the scary story about the black spot. There was a 16-year-old named Robert who spent a lot of time on his computer. He loved to play scary games and read scary stories. One night his parents went out, and Robert spent the whole night playing games on his computer. He had his headphones in with scary music playing. By midnight, his parents were still not home. He decided to stay up and wait for them. Robert then went downstairs to get a glass of water, and when he came back to his laptop, he noticed a black spot on his screen. He rubbed the spot with his finger, but it did not go away. He tried to ignore it and continue to play his game, but then he noticed that the black spot has gotten bigger. He rubbed the screen again with his finger, but the black spot would not go away. The black spot then started to increase in size and Robert started to get scared. He removed his headphones and heard heavy breathing behind him. A chill ran down his spine when he realized that the black spot was actually a shadow of somebody who snuck up behind him. When the parents arrived home, they found their son laying face down on his laptop with his throat slit ear to ear. There was blood all over the keyboard. Mysterious and Unexplained Photos, Part 6. This is the Tunguska event. In June of 1908, there was an explosion that was 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The explosion flattened over 770 square miles of forest and destroying over 80 million trees. Not one human was hurt or killed. There was no evidence of a meteor or a bomb. Nobody knows what caused it. Next, we have the Russell family. This photo was taken in August of 1997. They took a picture of their grandmother and they thought nothing of it until they realized they saw their grandfather behind her, who died 3 years earlier. Finally, we have the death of Alyssa Lamb. These are the last photos of her until she went missing for weeks. Later, the police found her on the roof of the building, dead in a water tank that was 13 feet high. She looked very scared and panicking in these photos. Many people believe she was playing the elevator game, which is a Korean game that takes you to another dimension. This is the scary story about the upstairs. There was a child who lived with their mother and father. Her parents were always at work, so she was often home alone. One day she stayed at school late, and when she got to her house, it was already dark out. She called out mom, and heard a faint voice say yes from upstairs. She called her mom again, and again she heard the same reply yes. The girl then went upstairs to see her mom. When the girl reached the first floor, she called her mom once again and heard the same yes coming from the back bedroom. The girl felt a weird uneasiness and wanted to see her mom as quick as possible. She then hurried closer to the back room. She was about to open the bedroom door when suddenly she heard the sound of the front door opening downstairs. Her mother came in carrying lots of groceries and said in a bright voice, "Sweetie, are you home? I'm back." Right when the girl heard her voice, she started to run downstairs, but just then, she happened to glance over her shoulder towards the back bedroom. The door to the room started to slowly open with a creak. For a moment, she saw something in the gap of the door. It was the pale face of a man staring directly at her. This is the creepy story about the cab. One night, a man was working at a bar. It was 4 a.m. and he was closing up the bar. He locked all the doors and shut off all the lights, and then the man went out the back door. He then had to walk down a dark alley where he saw two groups of shady men on his left and his right, and he was surrounded. Then they all started to yell, "Let's get him." Before he had a chance to run, he was blinded by headlights. The shady dudes had to move out of the way because there was a car coming through. It was a cab. The taxi driver rolled down the window and said, "Are you Jeff?" The man replied yes, and the taxi driver then said, "Somebody called you a cab." He jumped in the cab and then drove away to his house. The taxi then dropped him off at his house, and the man paid him. To this day, the man has no idea who called him the cab. He's convinced that in some other reality, there was another guy named Jeff who got murdered that night and never made it to the taxi that he called. This is the creepy story about I'll Wait Here. One night, two friends were walking home together. It was dark and raining hard. All of a sudden, there was a loud noise, and they saw a car swerve onto the road. The two friends then got hit by the car and were tossed head over heels into a ditch. The two friends were covered in mud. The driver of the car never even bothered to stop. They helped each other out of the ditch and used the light of their phones to check themselves for injuries. Both of them seemed to not have one injury. They cursed the driver for being so careless,
and they continued to walk home.
When they got to their houses, the one friend said he was going home to bed, but the other one said, "You go ahead, I'll wait here for a while."
The one friend then woke up in a hospital.
His body was covered in bandages, and he was in severe pain. He said to the nurse, "Where am I? What happened?" She then said, "You're in the hospital. You just woke up from a 3-day coma. You were hit by a car but survived." "What about my friend?" he said. "I'm sorry," she said, "but he didn't make it." When he got over the shock, he recalled the last words his friend said to him.
His friend said, "You go ahead, I'll wait here for a while."
This is the scary story about the taillight.
There was a girl named Maria who was driving around one night.
When she noticed a car driving super close behind her, she thought maybe they were in a rush, so she turned to get off the road, but the car turned also.
Maria began to get a little worried,
but maybe thought it was a coincidence.
She then made another turn,
and so did the car. Only this time the car bumped hers. She began to panic and started to drive really fast down the road, but the car was still right behind her. The car then hit hers again,
and her car began spinning. A tall man then stepped out of the car who hit her,
and went over to her car and dragged her out. He then beat her and tied her up,
and threw her in his back seat.
Maria was so scared she wanted to die. The man driving was going super fast and wasn't saying a word.
Suddenly, cop lights started to flash behind his car.
Right when the cop got to the car window, he called for backup. He saw Maria tied up in the back seat, and he knew this man.
The man was a serial killer
who has been running for weeks, and he was about to add another victim to his list.
Luckily, his taillight was out.
These are the 2 most dangerous substances in the world, and if you even breathe in a few flakes, you will die an agonizing death. The first one is polonium-210, and it can actually be found in nature. This substance is so dangerous that if you inhale just 620 nanograms, which is about the same as 2 to 3 grains of pollen, you would die a very painful death. But by far the most dangerous toxin known to mankind is botulinum toxin, which is commercially sold as Botox. Just 62 nanograms of this dangerous substance can kill you, which is about the same weight as 62 of your body cells. Luckily, only small fractions of that lethal dose are actually used in commercial Botox, but still, that's pretty crazy.
This woman's husband was killed while she was at the gym. One day, she went to the gym and received a call from the police, and she rushed home to receive the terrible news. Her husband had been murdered. The cops had thought a hitman had killed her husband, but then she was taken down to the police office for more investigation. While she was being questioned, her husband had walked into the room. Well, she thought he was dead, and it all went downhill from there once her husband walked into the room. Then cops knew she was suspicious. One critical mistake she made while hiring this hitman was that she hired an undercover cop to be the hitman. So that cop had set up a fake crime scene with her husband dead.
Here are 4 signs you could be a psychopath. Number 1, you're easily bored. You always need excitement in your life, and you probably get it by living dangerously or even playing mind games with other people. Number 2, you're more rational than others. As long as you're not bored, you don't really care about negative emotions such as fear or sadness. This allows you to stay calm in life-threatening scenarios. Number 3, you lie a ton and you don't know why. You lie even when there's nothing to gain from it, and sometimes it feels like you only lie because you enjoy doing it. And finally, number 4, you never really take responsibility for your actions. You always blame other people for your mistakes, and you never feel any guilt.
This is the creepy story about the bus driver.
There was a bus driver who worked for the county hospital.
One day he was transporting 20 mental patients to the state insane asylum. On the way there, he got thirsty
and decided to stop at a convenience store.
When the driver got back to his bus,
he was shocked to find it empty.
Every single one of the mental patients got free and escaped. Worried that he would lose his job, the bus driver came up with an idea. He drove the bus down the road
and pulled up to the first bus stop that he found.
He then opened the doors,
and all the people waiting there got on the bus.
The bus driver then took them
to the insane asylum
and told the staff that these patients were extremely violent and had to be restrained.
It took many months before the staff of the insane asylum realized their mistake.
By that time, many of the people had actually gone insane, and to this day,
the real mental patients have never been found.
Today I'm going to show you the most disturbing horror movie in the world. The thing that is so scary about this horror movie is none of it is fake. This picture contains a list of the most disturbing horror movies in the world, and as you can see up here, we have the easy ones. But we're gonna be focusing on the list down here, more importantly, OG Rish Collection. The OG Rish Collection is a movie that is basically a compilation of the most disturbing things that are on the internet, period. In the early 2000s, there was a website called ogrish.com that was basically a shock site. If you don't know what a shock website is, basically it's a website that shocks you by showing you the most horrible things on the internet. From terrorist attacks to cartel videos, I think you get the point. But this movie really focuses on real life events such as accidents, murders, you know what else. And basically this movie is meant to challenge people to see if you can make it till the end. While I was researching all of this, the movies down here in these catalogs, they're calling them a shockumentary. I forgot to mention, there's 6 movies of them and I'm just looking at the covers of them. Don't watch these videos. 50,000 likes and I'll watch a movie of your choice and I'll give you my honest reaction to it. So make sure to like and follow.
This is the creepy story about the 3 black nails. There was a little girl who had a doll, and she painted 3 of her fingernails black. Then that night when the girl was going to bed, she heard a voice say, "3 black nails in your parents' room." Confused and scared, the girl got up and went to her parents' bedroom. When she got there, her mom and dad were dead on the floor with 3 long scratch marks on their back. The girl then began to panic and ran back to her room and locked the door. She then heard the voice say again, "3 black nails in your brother's room." She then ran into her brother's room and also found him dead on the floor with 3 long scratches on his back. Suddenly the girl then heard the voice again and it said, "3 black nails coming for you." The next day the girl was found dead. She had 3 long scratches on her back and the doll was sitting beside her with its fingernails stained with blood.
These actors took things way too far. Number 1, Adrian Brody. In The Pianist, Brody played the lead role. He's a Polish Jewish musician in World War II that survived the Holocaust. The 6'1" Brody went on an intense 6-week diet before filming. By this, he lost 40 pounds in 6 weeks and now weighed 130 pounds. Brody wanted to get a glimpse into his character's actual life. 1 year before filming, Brody sold his car, disconnected his phone, and moved to Europe in total isolation for 365 days. It took him half a year to recover from this film. Brody says the film still haunts him to this day. Number 2, Nicolas Cage. In the movie Birdie, Cage plays a disfigured Vietnam veteran. Cage wanted to experience the physical pain and discomfort his character had. At 19 years old, he had his wisdom teeth removed while being awake and no pain medicines at all. Before the filming ever began, Cage wore his face bandages day and night for months.
Yo, what's up? This is the strangest places a dead body has ever been found, part 5. Inside the chimney of an abandoned house. In late December of 2019, 14-year-old Harley Dilly went missing and vanished from his home in Ohio, but was found in early January in an abandoned house's chimney. You see, it was said that when Dilly ran away, he had climbed on top of the abandoned house, took off his glasses and jacket, and jumped in the chimney, probably thinking he was going to get out, but he accidentally died after he couldn't find a way and he got stuck in the middle of the chimney. The police didn't even suspect this house to be where he would be found. There was no broken windows, no signs of forced entry, nothing. And I'm not even sure how Harley got on top of the house, but it's pretty tragic that he died in a chimney. What's even weirder is this isn't the first time a child was found dead in a chimney. In fact, this boy above, named Joshua Maddox, was missing for 7 years and was finally found in a chimney and was also ruled as an accidental death.
Murderers you probably didn't know about, part 2. I'm doing this to give you nightmares. Now these two, right here, they're killers. 10 years old, my ad. While they're over here killing a 2-year-old boy named James, I'm over here playing with Legos when I'm 2. They abducted this little boy and killed him. Soon the police found his body on the railroad track and he was mutilated so bad they couldn't even recognize him. And they still don't know what the cause of the death is. Now this one. This man shot and killed a woman, 8 different parts of her body over 2 days because he thinks it would absorb beauty. Honey, just get plastic surgery. Plastic surgery. Anyways, next caller. Now this one. He was so obsessed with his wife that he brought her back alive, stuffed her with stuff, and did a little diggy with her body.
Crazy unexpected things found inside of humans, part 2, because the first one got taken down. So in 1979, a woman by the name of Margaret Nallman, that's her face right there, got rushed to the hospital complaining about stomach pains. After a quick x-ray, the doctors were surprised to discover something that looked like a small squid inside of her body. However, a closer inspection revealed that it was actually a large amount of silverware, all swallowed one by one. The doctors then rushed her into surgery, and by the end of it, they ended up pulling out 78 individual pieces of silverware from her stomach. After the surgery, Mrs. Dolman admitted to having a problem with eating silverware and even said that she had treatment for it in the past. She also stated that she would only eat the forks and the spoons, not the knives. Weird. Drop a follow if you want to hear more crazy stories like that one.
This is the story of the 3 a.m. hitchhiker. There was a man named Jacob who left his house late at night to get some food. As he was driving, he saw a man stranded on the highway, so he said, I'm going to get my food first and then I'm going to pick him up on my way home. So once Jacob got to the restaurant, he picked up his food and he kept thinking about why would a man be standing on the highway at almost 3 a.m. So as he was driving back on the highway, he saw the man standing in the same exact place as he was 30 minutes ago. What happens next is pretty insane. He sees the man standing in a black hoodie. He then pulls over and asks the man if he needs a ride. The man replies, yes, just a couple of miles. Jacob then replies and says no problem, but had this weird eerie feeling like something was going to go wrong. So as Jacob was driving, he kept feeling like he was being eyeballed by the guy. After about 8 minutes of silence, the man says, pull over right here next to the stop sign. The man then pulls out a knife and asks Jacob to get out of the car. Jacob then gets out of the car because he's told so. The man then takes off his hoodie, looks at Jacob and says, you always were the favorite son, and then commits suicide. Follow for more stories. Stories you shouldn't know about the dark web, part 1. I did this series 7 months ago, so if you remember that, you're an OG. But you guys have to blow up this video if you want a part 2 of this series. Today's story is known as Daisy Destruction. This has to be one of the most talked about topics of all time. Take a look at this man. This man is known as Peter Scully. I hate even saying his name because this man is a monster. Like, he was so bad that the Philippines wanted to bring back the death penalty just to kill him. This man opened up a website known as No Limit Fun. It was a secret child you-know-what website on the deep web. He was making these videos and selling them to pedophiles all around the world. And the most famous one he sold is known as Daisy's Destruction. He sold this video for $10,000 a piece, and what happened in this video will literally leave you shocked. The 3 victims were 12, 11, and 18 months old, all of them being females. It featured the 11-month-old being hung upside down with a mask on her face. The other girls were told to dig their own grave while being assaulted. If you guys want to see a part 2, make sure to like and follow.
This is a creepy story about the flickering lights. There was a lady who lived near a mental hospital. One night she was at home watching TV. It was a very stormy night. Suddenly the television program was interrupted by breaking news. It said a woman had escaped from the local mental hospital. She was very dangerous and she killed 12 people before she was caught and sent to the mental hospital. They also said that she was very aggressive and obsessed with light switches. The lady's cell phone then rang and it was her neighbor calling her. He said the light in her upstairs window kept flickering on and off. The lady then went upstairs to go check, and when she got to the room, the light was off. She thought it was an electrical problem, so she then went back downstairs. A few minutes later, her neighbor called her again and said the lights were still flickering, but now in a different window. At this point, the lady thought her neighbor was imagining things until she heard a loud bang upstairs. She then began to walk up the stairs. Halfway up, the lady stopped in fear. Standing there was a crazy-looking woman, smiling from ear to ear. The woman's body was found the next day, half-eaten.
This water is absolutely beautiful, but you can die if you go in it, and here's why. It's called the Blue Lagoon, and it's been labeled as potentially the most dangerous water in all of England. Water looks pretty clean, not gonna lie, but the pH balance of this water is actually equal to bleach, so if you swim in here, you might as well go swim in a pool of bleach. But here's the craziest part. For some unknown reason, people decided it was okay to swim in it anyways. There's even a sign in the beginning before you walk in that says everything that can happen to you if you go swimming there. Authorities even dye the water black sometimes to try to keep people out of it, but I don't know about you. You taking a dip in there? Me personally, nah. And I'm feeling super generous today, so I'm going to follow back the next 200 people who go click the link in my bio and subscribe and comment on my recent YouTube video because you don't want to miss those ones, I promise. New videos coming soon, too.
This is a scary story about the screaming. There was a teenage boy who was walking around a park one day when he suddenly heard a voice screaming for help, but there was nobody around him. The boy was very frightened and didn't know what was happening. The screaming sounded like it was coming from underneath the ground, but the boy did not know for sure. The screaming still continued, so he called the police. When the police arrived, they heard the screaming too, and also believed it was coming from underneath the ground. The police officers then got shovels and began digging into the ground, and what they found left them all frozen.
There was a container with a girl in it, buried underground. The girl was badly beaten and bloody. They then asked her what happened, and she said a man kidnapped and beat her, then buried her alive. To this day, it's a miracle on how this girl survived, and the person who did it was never even caught.
You know what it is. Today I'll be talking about cannibalism because I want you to have nightmares. And you know, I love giving you nightmares. I just love it. It just brings me happiness because I also have nightmares. But anyways, let's go. The first one we have is Austin I'm not even gonna try. The police found him on top of some guy, eating his flesh with his teeth and trying to rip it off. And he sounded like an animal while doing it. Exciting. Anyways, next one. Anthony Morley. His nickname is ex-gay UK chef. This guy was just watching a movie with his boyfriend, you know, Daniel, and then he decided to eat him. He skinned him alive and then perfectly cut him into pieces. That's what he said, perfectly, because he's a chef, and seasoned him. Next one. Let's just say this guy cut his boyfriend in pieces and then sent his body parts to different schools.
Scientists might have just discovered a megalodon in the Mariana Trench. If you didn't think 2020 could get any crazier, then just listen to this. The megalodon was the biggest shark to terrorize the ocean. It was thought to have gone extinct over 2.6 million years ago. However, scientists do believe that there is a great possibility that they could be living in the Mariana Trench right now. The Mariana Trench is the deepest spot in the ocean and the deepest spot in the entire Earth, measuring 7 miles deep. The shark would have to adapt to its new living environment in the Mariana Trench, and therefore would now probably be bioluminescent, similar to the organisms it feeds on. The megalodon was 3 times the size of a T-Rex, so can you imagine what would happen if one of them surfaced? Now comment what you would do if you saw a megalodon.
This is the scary story about the hammer and nails. The Webster family moved into their new home in early December 1964. Mike and Mary were a happily married couple, and they had 3 children, Catherine, Kaylee, and Charlie. Shortly after they moved in, the girls started to report strange things to their parents. They said their younger brother Charlie was talking in his sleep about the man who lived in his toy chest. The next day at breakfast, the mother asked Charlie about the man who lived in the toy chest. Hammer and nails, Charlie answered. Whenever she asked him about the man in the toy chest, all he would say was hammer and nails. One night, Mike and Mary were woken up by the screams of all 3 of their children. Both parents rushed down the short hallway and bursted into their children's bedroom. When they turned on the lights, they were greeted by an horrific sight. All 3 of their children had been strangled, and their hands and feet had been nailed to the walls. When the police were called, they could not figure out what happened or who had killed the Webster's children. To this day, the mystery has not been solved.
Proof we lived the exact same childhood, part 7. Every time I used to take a shower, I used to do my hands like this in the water, and I used to think I was a water bender or a damn Aquaman or some shit. Please tell me why every time you drew something that had something to do with the scenery, you put the sun in the left corner every time. I can almost guarantee you that your parents used to tell you that it's illegal to turn on the lights inside of the car whenever they driving, but that's just not the case at all. It's not illegal.
2 teenage girls were holding hands when a man walked up to them and said, "I want to play a game. Your girl 1 and your girl 2. He pointed a gun at their hands and said, "Follow me." This is the worst game anyone has ever played, and I'm telling you the whole story. Hang on. Chris and Molly were supposed to go to the movies on a date, but when they missed it, they went to the park instead. David lived right across the street from that park, and he went into the park every day searching for a playmate. That's when he saw Chris and Molly holding hands looking at the water. He loaded his gun and handed them a bottle of lube. He told girl 1 to wrap her girlfriend's entire face with duct tape until she couldn't breathe. Then he made her do the same thing to herself. He forced himself on both of them, and when he finished, he said, "Stand up," and he shot them both in the head. Molly died, but Chris is still alive with a bullet in her brain, and insurance won't cover her medical bills. TikTok, can you help her?
Reacting to the scariest TikTok accounts, part 1. Today we're going to be talking about an account known as Sitting and Smiling. The username is literally exactly what it sounds like. This girl does nothing other than sit and smile. But it's about to get really creepy, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. The crazy thing is her videos have an abnormal amount of views. I mean, look how many, 8 million, 4 million, I mean, a ton. But her latest video was posted on 4/18/2020. Why would somebody quit when they have that amount of views? The weird thing is her bio used to say, "I'm not kidnapped." And her bio changed. And I found her Instagram account and it gets even weirder. She hasn't posted in over 40 weeks and she posted this video of a butterfly. And I guess a bunch of her fans are saying MK Ultra. And do you know what MK Ultra is? MK Ultra was a top secret CIA project that gathered information with psychological torture. Also, click the link in my bio to watch my latest YouTube video.
This is a scary story about the human game. One day a young boy went to an amusement park with his parents. He was going on rides with his parents all day. His parents went to go get food and told him to wait at the table. The boy waited and waited, but they never came back. The young boy began to get worried, and he went to the place where they were getting food, but they weren't there. He then searched the whole park for them, but they were nowhere in sight. He began asking people if they saw his parents, but nobody seemed to care. The boy then saw a closed game and decided to knock on the door on the side. Suddenly, as he knocked, the door slowly cracked open. He went inside and saw something he wishes he'd never seen. His mom and dad were nailed to a wall full of balloons dead. Their bodies were filled with darts, and the two of them were completely cut open. The boy tried to help them, but it was no use. He then told one of the workers and they called the police. When the police arrived, they had no idea what to make of it and had no idea who did it. The young boy was then put in a foster home, and not a day went by, he didn't think about how his dead parents looked on that wall.
Today I'll be talking about an urban legend about goblins in Mexico. So in Mexico, there's this well-known rumor about goblins taking newborn babies out of their cribs and kidnapping them. And most of the newborn babies that were kidnapped by the goblins, also known as duendes in Mexico, they were usually found drowned in rivers or never seen again. And so kids disappearing was very common in Mexico, and they would just blame it on the goblins. So one night, this recently married couple that already had a baby was about to go to sleep. And so the mom had decided to put her newborn baby to bed, and the baby's name was Sonia. A few hours go by and everybody's asleep. The mother decides to check on her baby because she hasn't cried in a long time, and she thought that wasn't normal. And for the mother's surprise, the baby was missing, and she automatically knew it was the duende. The woman immediately woke up her husband, and they lit up a torch and woke up everybody in the town. Part 2 is up.
This is why you should always sleep with your mouth closed. There was a kid named Tony who was playing video games late one night. He then started to get tired, so he went to bed. When Tony woke up the next morning, he felt a very sharp pain in his mouth. It was so bad that he couldn't even chew any food. He told his parents, but they just said that he probably had a canker sore. Tony then went on with his day and tried to ignore the pain. Later that night, when Tony was about to go to bed, when the pain randomly went away, he was super relieved and got in bed and fell asleep almost instantly. But Tony woke up in the middle of the night to the same pain, but even worse this time. Then he felt something crawling out of his mouth. It was a giant spider. Tony then smacked the spider with his hand, but it was too late. The spider bit Tony so many times in the mouth that he permanently lost his taste for the rest of his life. This is the story about the endless loop. One night, a man had a nightmare. In the dream, he found himself walking in a desert. He had no idea how he got there, but he knew he was lost. When he looked down in his hand, he realized he was carrying a machete. The sun was beating down and the heat was intense. The man was sweating intensely. After some time, he saw a dark figure crouching in the distance. As he approached, he saw that it was a person lying in the sand. He quickly ran over to the man and bent over to help him. However, when he turned the man over, he took one look at his face and screamed in horror. He was looking at himself. In that instant, he was overcome with fear and raised the machete over his head and hacked the man to death. Horrified by what he just did, he dropped the machete and started running away. As he was running, he sprained his ankle and fell to the ground. He couldn't walk another step and all he could do was lay there. After a while, he looked up and saw something in the distance. It was a figure of a man. As the man came closer, he waited until he could see his face. To his horror, he realized that it was himself, and in his hand, he was carrying a machete. Most creepiest unsolved mysteries, part 2. This is the Dyatlov Pass incident. On February 2nd, 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers set camp in the Russian mountains for the night. When they never arrived to their final destination, a rescue party set out and ultimately stumbled upon a very bizarre scene. Their tent was ripped open from the inside. Their bodies were found in the snow. Most of them were just wearing underwear and no shoes. They died from hypothermia. But 3 of them had very mysterious physical injuries. 2 of them sustained significant head trauma and brain damage, while the other one was missing her tongue and her chest was bashed in. Their equipment and clothes were found several hundred feet away. Also, there was a high amount of radioactivity on 2 of the victims' clothes. Theories range from the Russian military being involved to aliens or supernatural events. Nobody knows what really happened to them, and I don't think we ever will. This is a scary story about the bath. Jennifer was sitting at her desk in her room. She was finishing up her homework when she suddenly got a text from a number she did not recognize. The text message said, "Take a bath and go to bed, it's a school night, Mom." Jennifer thought her mom's phone died, and she used somebody else's phone to text her. She already planned on taking a bath, so she undressed and grabbed a towel and walked into the bathroom. She stopped in her tracks and was surprised that the bathtub was already filled. "I guess my mom filled it in advance," she said. She then shrugged her shoulders and got in the bathtub. When she was in the bathtub, she became aware of a burning sensation all over her body, and it got worse and worse until she was crying. She then jumped out of the bath, but it was too late. The water was blood red, and the skin on her arms and legs were beginning to peel off. She was dripping blood and skin. She then picked up her phone to call the police, but there was a new text message waiting for her. It said, "Next time, bathe in water." Jennifer then heard laughter behind her, and standing there was a man holding an empty container of sulfuric acid. This is the scary story about the calendar. A woman and her husband were at their house one evening when they heard a knock on the door. They were surprised because it was pretty late and they were not expecting any visitors. When the woman answered the door, she found a strange man standing at her doorstep. He introduced himself saying he was a salesman and that he was selling calendars door to door. The woman says she didn't want to buy anything, but the man wouldn't take no for an answer. He kept pressuring her to buy it until the woman yelled and told him to leave, slamming the door in his face. The next evening, the woman came home from work and she saw something sitting on her kitchen table, and it was a calendar. She then picked it up and noticed that one date in particular was circled with a red marker. It was the date of her husband's birthday. When she took a closer look, she realized that the red circle was not marker but actually blood. Just then she heard a strange bumping noise. It seemed to be coming from the hallway closet. Slowly she reached out and opened the door. She then screamed in horror at what she found inside. Her husband was hanging from the closet railing dead, and the sound she heard was her husband's feet bumping the door. These are insane North Korean laws that will blow your mind, part 3. In North Korea, if your house catches on fire, you must save all the pictures of the supreme leaders before you are allowed to save yourself, your kids, your personal belongings, and clothes. And if you survive and you don't save the pictures, you will be put to death. Next up, it is mandatory to vote in North Korea. And if you don't vote, they will kill you. Also, the craziest thing is, there is only one name on the ballot, and it is Kim Jong-un's. Finally, if you fall asleep in front of Kim Jong-un, you will be killed. For example, the North Korean defense minister was executed with an anti-aircraft gun for just falling asleep in front of Kim Jong-un. These are pictures that fooled the entire world, part 8. Up first is a picture of a man going down the world's highest water slide. When people first saw this photo, they could not believe that the man was brave enough to go down it. But as it turns out, this photo is fake and it's completely photoshopped. Next is a picture of a very cool art project of somebody painting a pretty unique car. When people saw this photo, they thought it was super creative, but their minds were blown when they found out that people were painted and angled certain ways to make a car. This is super crazy and it fooled a lot of people. Finally is a picture of the nail polish and the shoe. When this photo went viral, people couldn't decide if the shoe was purple or pink. Almost half the people thought pink and the other half thought purple. What color do you think the shoe is? This is a scary story about the family. There was a woman who loved cooking for her family. Every day for the past 2 weeks, she cooked 3 meals a day every day. Her husband, daughter, and son never said a word because it was so good. She always made sure they were dressed well whenever she cooked for them, or whenever they watched TV together. Whenever they made her mad, she put them in their spots and they stayed there for hours, until she was ready for them again. One day the woman was reading the newspaper, and the headline was, "Father, son, and daughter still missing after 2 weeks." The woman chuckled to herself and looked up at her family. She then said, "Who wants more food?" Nobody answered. They just stared straight ahead motionless. These are the most scariest curses to use in real life, part 1. To perform the first curse, all you need is a tissue and a pen. Then draw the shape of a person on the tissue, and be careful not to rip the tissue while you're drawing on it. Then draw an X on the figure in any place, the head, belly, feet, anything. Then imagine any person that you want to curse, and then stab the part of the body where you put the X. Keep stabbing it until it's black, and there is a hole in it.
Now the person that you wanted to curse will start to feel pain in their body exactly where you made the hole on the tissue. Now either two things can happen to the person that you cursed. They will either have bad luck for the rest of their lives, or they will die. But if anybody sees you drawing on the tissue and performing the curse, then the curse will backfire on you and you will experience the full consequences. These are pictures that fooled the entire world. This picture is said to be the last picture ever taken before the 9/11 attacks. The story was that the photo was found in the rubble of the Twin Towers. But this photo is not real. This is a Hungarian man who took this photo 4 years earlier. He was just really good at Photoshop. This photo fooled millions of people, and they actually believed it for years. Next is the photo of a man climbing into a helicopter as a shark jumps up out of the water about to eat him. When this photo started to go viral, the story behind it was that it was the National Geographic photo of the year. But the truth was that this photo was photoshopped. This would be the most insane photo ever taken if it was real. Finally, we have the gold and white dress. This photo took the internet by storm when half the people thought that the dress was white and gold and the other half thought it was blue and black. To this day, people still don't know what color it is. So, what color do you see? This is the creepy story about Emily. There was a little girl named Emily who went missing a couple days ago. The whole neighborhood looked everywhere for her, but there was not one trace of her. Her mother and father were devastated and couldn't imagine living life without her. A couple days later, they were pouring new cement on the sidewalks in the neighborhood when one of the workers noticed something written in the sidewalk. It said, "Help me, it's Emily." But it was written in reverse and from below. This is the creepy story about Have You Seen My Son? One day, a woman was running around her neighborhood. She was screaming, "Have you seen my son?" The old man who lived next door said no. The mother knocked on every door on the street. "Have you seen my son?" she said over and over again. None of the neighbors seen the boy. Nobody knew where he was. The mother went to the police station and asked the officer behind the desk, "Have you seen my son?" The police organized a search for the missing boy. They made announcements on the television and radio to get information. Every morning, the mother left her house and put posters up all around town. Each one had a picture of her son on it, and the caption said, "Have you seen my son?" Once a week, the mother would go down to the police station and ask the officer on the desk, "Have you seen my son?" Each time the officer would sign and shake his head and say, "I'm sorry, ma'am, not yet." Each time the mother walked home with a smile on her face, they would never find her son because she hid his body very well. These are famous celebrities' disturbing last words. Up first is Steve Jobs. He is known for creating Apple and the iPhone. But in 2003, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and he then died in 2011. His final words were, "Oh my, oh my, oh my." Next up is Steve Irwin. He was known for getting up close and personal with very dangerous exotic animals. But in 2006, he got pierced by a stingray's barb that went right through his heart. As he was bleeding out, one of the crew members who was with him was trying to comfort him by saying, "Stay strong, Steve. Think of your kids." But his final words were, "I am going to die." Finally is Paul Walker. He is known for being in the Fast and Furious movies. But in 2013, he and his friend went for a car ride, and they then got into a car crash and died. Paul Walker's last words before he got into the car were, "We will be back in just 5 minutes." This homeless man got rejected by a girl, and then years later she ended up working for him. This homeless man named John Williams was sitting on the side of the street when a beautiful girl walked by. He then said to her, "I think you're beautiful, and we should go out on a date." The girl looked at him and then said, "I'm sorry, but I don't date homeless people." This broke John's heart, and he felt worthless. But what that girl said to John motivated him to do something with his life. He then got a job at a restaurant, and over the months and the years of working there, he worked his way up to the restaurant's manager. Then one day, to John's surprise, the girl that rejected him a couple years ago for being homeless walked into the restaurant and asked for a job. When she saw John, she didn't even recognize him. They then sat down at a table and began talking. The girl said to John, "Wow, you really got your life together. Maybe I'll take you up on that date you wanted to take me on." John looked at her and smiled and shook his head. And he then said to her, "If you didn't want me at my worst, then you can't have me at my best." This is the creepy story about Pick One. One day a woman went to a doctor's appointment. She left her 2 kids home alone when she went. Kyle, who was 6, and Mark, who was 14. She was gone for around an hour, but when she arrived home, she saw her front door broken down.
She immediately started to panic and rushed inside the house, hoping her 2 kids were okay. When she got to the living room, she saw her kids tied up and bloody, and a man with a gun standing between them, saying, "You pick who I kill." She started to panic and didn't know what to do. She then said, "Why are you doing this?" Then the man pulled out a second gun and said, "I'll kill both and you if you don't hurry up." The mother took a deep breath and said, "Kill Mark," and then she pointed at him. The man then said, "You're an awful mother," and then pointed the guns at her and shot her in the head. He then ran out of the house, leaving the boys tied up and their dead mom laying in front of them.